We are live, sir.
अरे अवनीश बोला था कि कुछ काउंटडाउन लगाएगा बट ठीक है विल बिगिन सो hello all welcome to the second edition of how to fix Indian cricket series like in the previous episode I have Nikhil and Gurkirat with me on this show. In the previous discussion we spoke about India's fixation to convert almost every cricketer into a all format player and how it has negatively impacted the team in recent times. So please, if you've not seen that video, do check that out. The topic of discussion today is the relevance or the irrelevance of India's domestic structure. In the past week, there has been a huge outcry regarding Sarfaraz Khan's omission from India's test team. So, our discussion today will touch upon not only Khan's exclusion, but also the broader issues associated with India's domestic cricket structure and how are they negatively affecting the judgments regarding selection. So let us dive in. But before we do it, as always, I'll just check in with Nikhil and Gurkirat on what's up with them and yeah, how are you guys?
I'm good. I've not been following a lot of cricket in the last 2 3 days because I've been traveling on a holiday. But yeah, uh, I caught up the highlights of the game that happened between Netherlands and West Indies yesterday, and yeah, I mean it's fair to say I've missed a great game, but can't really complain because as myself also having a pretty good time.
Yeah, the atmosphere in here at cricket.com was electric yesterday with Pramod. We had Pramod here who's just absolutely in love with associate cricket. He's the Peter Della Penna of cricket.com. So it was very fun to watch that game with him, and every boundary from Teja was just inviting a lot of emotions from him. Nikhil, what's up with you? You've been very busy, right? Subah se sham cricket throughout.
Yeah, this is a dream, and again, privileged to be in a position to be. When you wake up, there is a match happening. When in the afternoon, there is a match. In the evening, there is a match. So, blessed to be in that position. And yep, absolutely loved that West Indies game. Another game which told you why sometimes common sense isn't very common. The people bowling super overs, the people batting in the super overs, you don't know where all those decisions are coming from. But again, it's part of the game. Everybody learns. Hopefully the tournament also learns that you don't have to shut teams down. You need more teams, they will grow. And but yeah, that's a discussion for another separate
Yeah.
seminar maybe needed for that one.
Absolutely. So, yeah, let's just start the discussion today now that we are all warmed up. Uh, Guys, I mean, we all know about India's domestic system and the various tournaments that take place. I just want to know from you, what do you think are the biggest positives from or positives about India's current domestic structure? We'll start with Gurkirat first, and then maybe Nikhil, you can chip in.
See, I think the biggest positive is that the number of teams that are there, they allow for a lot of people to grab an opportunity and then showcase themselves at a very decent level so that they can get noticed. But it is also one of the negatives because then having 38 teams means is that the quality is then distributed in those 38 teams. It's something that we have seen even in the IPL with, when the IPL increased from 8 teams to 10 teams, there was, quality players were distributed into 10 teams, which left gaps and holes open in all teams. So I think having the the number of teams is both a positive and a negative. Because positive because it is allowing for a lot of cricketers to, you know multiple chances and regular chances, and try and be relevant, and not give up the sport early. Sometimes when you're not getting opportunities in the domestic circuit as well, you can end up giving up the sport early, which happens in a lot of associate nations as well. So that is something that won't really happen in Indian cricket because of the number of teams that are there in this, at the disposal. And then if you are doing well and you want to shift to a different state, or an association, that opportunity is also there, because you feel that you might be better served in those states. So I think these are few very good positives. But like I said, the number of teams is both a positive and negative. Something on the negatives later on in the episode, because that is something which also comes up when players are being selected, about the quality and everything. But we'll talk about that later.
Hmm. Yeah, Nikhil.
Yeah, I think fairly well summarized there, and very rarely did you say that I don't. My answer is not the same with what is said by Gurkirat. So I think overall, majoritively, it is what it is. Very few teams, very few units in the system have a depth like you have in terms of the available, in terms of the possibility and availability of being able to hold something like that. Not many countries are going to be able to host three red ball tournaments every year, so every season there can be different formats, but therein lies a lot of opportunities which which I'm sure we will talk about later in the episode, that how can you best maximize that existing pool. Because I think a part of it has to come from the first episode that we talked about in terms of how you want to play. So I think that plays a very good part, because if you take an example of England, you know what is getting people to the test team. Ben Stokes said that Cook couldn't make it to his team. I mean, that is a statement. It tells you what you. It may be. See, it's not about right or wrong. It's about
Hmm.
having a clear identity. You can say it's over the top. You can say whatever you want to. But at least the people who are in the system, they know what is to be done to get there. With India, I don't think that's a clear answer as of now.
Hmm. Yeah, talking about coming to obviously the drawbacks now. Now we have multiple red ball tournaments, we have multiple white ball tournaments as well. But I mean, on the face of it, we will absolutely dive into each one of them individually later on. But on the face of it, what are the major drawbacks do you guys feel with the current domestic structure? Gurkirat alluded to the point of having too many teams, and this is exactly. I mean, in the olden era, the discussion was always between the quality of an Australian side versus an English side, and most of the Australians used to bring up this point that England, the selection system is pretty dilute because there are too many teams. So yeah, Gurkirat.
So, we touched upon the idea of having too many teams, which will dilute the quality that is available. I also feel that somewhere what is missing is that, uh, if you observe that there are few Ranji teams or few uh, associations that have become stronger. Like we have seen how Karnataka and Tamil Nadu in the last decade or so have really emerged stronger and challenged Mumbai as a powerhouse, right? But so many of the other teams haven't been able to. So some teams have even regressed from what they used to be earlier. What I feel is that I am not sure if there's a plan between the BCCI and between the associations as to what are you trying to improve your team, right? If a DDCA is struggling, or if Delhi is struggling, Delhi has given enough cricketers to the country. It has had 9 or 10 Ranji Trophy titles. But if Delhi is struggling, what are the reasons? Is there any communication, for example, between a DDCA and the BCCI? And DDCA, I'm not trying to single out DDCA here. I'm just trying to make an example. Like that I feel is one of the drawbacks. Like if one of the association is struggling, or if one of the Ranji team is struggling, is anything being done by the central board to help them? That I'm not sure if it is happening or not. If it's not happening, then it should happen, because we all know that we've discussed that there are 38 teams, and there's abundance of players to select from. But you need to know how to utilize those players, how to utilize those systems in place, and how to get those teams to train better, or become better. So I feel that is one of the drawbacks. And then the relegation system is obviously there, which I feel is a good initiative. uh, One thing that I don't like is there being a first innings kind of a lead in knockouts, wherein we have seen teams after getting a first innings lead in knockouts not wanting to enforce a win. That is something I'd like to be addressed, because uh, you don't want teams to be shutting down the games. And consequently, if you want teams uh, to not shut down games, you also have to provide such pitches, because sometimes the teams are also fair in their assessment to keep on batting, because they know that the turnaround time is short and the pitches are going to be flat. Why do you want to tire your bowlers out? So that is there. And the last thing that I want to mention is that we have seen leagues like TNPL, Maharashtra Premier League, Karnataka Premier League uh, ensure that their matches are being broadcast. And now these are they don't have the same kind of resources that a BCCI has, right? So, and we have seen even in the English county circuit that each and every county has their own YouTube channel and they are able to live stream those county games. So that is one thing that I want to see in Indian domestic cricket, that a Vidarbha Cricket Association or a Pondicherry Cricket Association or a Punjab Cricket Association, all these associations are able to uh, stream their matches if there is no official broadcaster doing this, because there are some 7 or 8 Ranji games that happen side by side. So, but only 1 or 2 are telecasted. Even knockout games are not all the knockout games are also telecast. So if you want people to know, if you want people to follow these games closely, you should be able to give them that access. And I'm if someone says that people are not going to watch, well, if people are not going to watch cricket in India, they're not going to watch anything else. So you have to give them that access to watch those games. These are the few things that I'd like to see change in Indian domestic cricket.
Yeah. I just want to touch upon that broadcast aspect. If you look at the English county system, all the respective counties have their own YouTube channel where they telecast their matches. And I mean, in India, we do not have the matches being telecasted anywhere. So yeah, that's a very big drawback. Nikhil, do you want to add on to certain elements here?
Yeah, I think I do feel that there has to be a concentrated effort as well in terms of what are the type of pitches that you want to play, because that in the long run will help you develop a different set of skill sets in the system. Like if you go to now, if you think of green top, Lal is probably the first name that comes to people's mind. कि इधर तो green top ही होगा. So that is the kind of characteristics that you want to start building for people, that okay, this is something that if you get a venue, this is something we talked about even for the test venues, that if a side comes to play in Indore, they must know what to expect. Okay, this is the history of the ground. So it may be known to the people who are following it regularly, but you need to ensure that it is reaching to the masses. And when you have a direct directive that okay, these are the kind of decks we want, and it has to be a mix. It cannot be that uh, there is only a certain type of pitches, because what that will also ensure is you're not always playing for the first innings lead. If the pitches are sporty, you are keeping both batters and bowlers in the game. Push people for results more than getting points. So I think there has to be a way to evaluate that. There are many games where even before the match starts, that okay, this team is not going to care about the result. They'll bat 3 days, that's all, because that's how the system is rewarding. So if you take care of the pitches in the first place, everything will fall in place in terms of the games. You will see more results, and then if you're telecasting them, people will also want to watch, because something will happen. It will not end up being a boring jitna maar sake maro kind of contest.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, a few interesting points, but I just want to take this discussion one step back. Now, Ranji Trophy is India's preeminent domestic tournament, but at this point of time, it is almost clear that it has become obsolete in its significance. Like, what does it mean to really perform in Ranji Trophy? Because at this point of time, it is not your pathway to India selection. The reasons of it can be multifold. It can be because it is difficult to assess numbers, that whether you have done well against quality bowling, or is it because you are not getting enough limelight because of the advent of the IPL. So this is very different from, let's say, if we look at a good test team and the test champions right now, which is Australia, wherein they selected Peter Handscomb for the India tour just because he did well against spin in the Sheffield Shield. So do you think that at this point of time, we talk about certain drawbacks, but overall Ranji Trophy system and what does it signify itself is obsolete? And B, if there is a budding cricketer, how are you gonna sort of encourage him to pursue a career playing Ranji Trophy?
Yeah, I think this is why it's very important to have the message coming from the top, that
Yeah.
we are looking at you. And there has to be valid reasons and not random arbitrary excuses passed on to people on websites than people coming to in front of the camera and saying it upfront. I think the
Through
thing, yeah,
yeah, through ghost writings. Through ghost writings is the worst way to do it. It's absolutely the worst way because it is creating more confusion and distracting people rather than addressing what is at hand in real time. Like, genuinely, ghostwriting is probably one of the worst things right now happening in Indian cricket because it has not solved a single thing. It has created miscommunication probably with regards to each and every cricketer that has played for the team in the last 1.5 to 2 years. It has created misinformation about a captain's injury, a captain's availability, a captain's tenure, etc., etc. I mean, it's literally the worst thing that has been happening in the last 2 years in the board.
Yeah, so just to to add on to that, in terms of when you are addressing it out in the open, you know what the team is trying to do. So which is why I said, when you say that okay, this is what we're looking for, it at least gives the people in the system a look in that okay, this is what the team is looking for. And every time, we're not saying that you tell us, but at
Hmm.
least be open about it, at least in your system, because as of now you don't think that it is happening. That okay, as of now it feels like two bubbles are there. One is the bubble that may or may not include the IPL, but this is the bubble that is being preferred over the other bubble where there are thousands of cricketers toiling away without any direction. But it is happening because chalta aa raha hai, to let's see where we get with it. But
Hmm.
you see the kind of winners also. uh, there has been there You have seen different winners now. It is because people are spending time to get better at what they're doing. But if you reward that publicly, as we talked about broadcast, Dulip Trophy will not be broadcasted this very season. It is 2023.
Yeah.
The board has to take initiative to market it to the people that this is our domestic system. Watch this. People outside, you are excited that okay, Arshdeep is going to play for Kent. This guy is going to play for Sussex. Why is that importance given? Because people are building that bubble for them.
Hmm.
Baseball may do what it want to, but every cricketer coming out is telling that baseball, baseball, baseball.
Yeah.
You can make the noises too, but you
Hmm.
have to make the right noises for the domestic system so that Abhimanyu Iswaran, who's toiling away for 4 or 5 years, stop scoring for you, does not feel hard done by and feel that what is the point of this? Because at this point of time, there is, as you said, there is no motivation for you to just stay there. You are sending out the wrong signal that okay, you may be in the top 10 run scorers in first class, but maybe you don't meet the eye test, you don't meet this criteria, you don't meet that criteria. You look at that some of the names, Cheteshwar Pujara, Iswaran, Sarfraz Khan, Jaiswal, one of them is going to play. Mayank Agarwal has come and gone. Again, he stopped scoring. Now, if Mayank Agarwal is stopped scoring, are you addressing what is wrong with Mayank Agarwal? Why did he not succeed as a test player? The reason why a lot of us keep saying that you should go back and play Ranji Trophy, but is it actually helping you? Are you ensuring that it helps the player? You have Rajat Patidar, who was part of the system just a while back, but again, that too was also almost feels like an accident more than by choice. You have Hanuma Veri, Rishabh, and then of course Prithvi Shaw. You can't talk about him because you don't know. There is no clear directive that why are people not in the pecking order.
Hmm. No, that's a very interesting point that Nicholas brought up. Actually, this we have seen multiple examples, and not just Mayank in the past, that some players who've done well in the domestic system come back and come to the test team, perform there, but then fail after a while, and then go back to the same system, which could not sort of act as a pathway to the international level. So, how to bridge that gap? That clarity is yet not entered the system, and right now, all Ranji Trophy is doing is just providing employment opportunities to maybe 500 odd cricketers associated with the system. There is no real value attached to in terms of you know stepping up to the level which is needed to succeed at the international cricket.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's pretty fair. And you know, adding on to what Nikhil said in the last episode when we were having this discussion, Nikhil said that if someone like Jalat Saxena has to come out and tweet that he doesn't know why he's being left out, that sums up everything about the miscommunication that is happening. Right?
Hmm.
You may not tell the fans outside what is happening, but you should be telling those who are doing well that okay, when is their chance going to come, or if it is going to come or not, right? Because that is important. So and we have seen after the selection that happened for the West Indies tour, roughly three cricketers have come out, three ex cricketers have come out and spoken of how the Ranji performances are not being rewarded, which is Srivatsa Goswami, Wasim Jafar, and Abhimanyu Mukund. So Abhinav Mukund, sorry, not Abhimanyu Mukund, Abhinav Mukund. So that tells you that now the frustration is not just with the fans. It's also with those who've been a part of the system, who are currently a part of the system, and those who might just become a part of the system in the future. Because, like I said, no communication doesn't help anyone, and what is worse than no communication is ghost communication, because
Hmm.
then the possibilities are endless. You don't know, like, what is happening today. Even when we were discussing about the Indian squad that that had been announced for the West Indies tour, just 5 minutes before, Navdeep Saini had signed a deal. Like,
Ah.
the announcement had come that he has signed a deal with Worcestershire, right? Now, if Navdeep Saini knew that he was going to be a part of the series, he wouldn't have signed it, right? That tells you that even those who are getting selected, they also don't know that they might get selected. So
Yeah, I mean, before Navdeep Saini, we had the example of Jaydev Unadkat. He was first selected for, he was touted to be selected for the Bangladesh tour, and then was added to the A team, and then taken back to the senior team. Even he didn't himself did not know was he selected for the A team or the main team. So this communication gap, though, matlab, it is just long lasting. It is the primary issue which is affecting Indian cricket. That forget about no commoners like us. The main heroes that are involved, they are themselves kept out of the loop, which is absolutely bizarre. Okay, so now we've touched upon Ranji Trophy and certain things which do not work at that level. Now, ironically, India are the only team which has multiple red ball tournaments, and yet none of them at this point of time seem to matter when it comes to test selections. Now, here is a suggestion or an idea, and I just want to pick your brains on it. What do you think of the feasibility, and do just like the look and feel of the idea itself? Now, instead of playing Duleep Trophy, which is about to start tomorrow, and Irani Trophy, wouldn't it be a better idea to arrange a three-part series, a three-test series, or something like that, and schedule it at an overseas venue? Let's say India are about to play South Africa later this year. Instead of having a Duleep Trophy in India, which is not even being broadcasted on television, if let's say there was a three-test series arranged between two bunches of Indian domestic players who are also seen at a larger scale to be potentially be part of the test team, and these three tests are conducted in Centurion or any of those venues in South Africa, wouldn't that be a better idea for player development, player identification, and wouldn't it actually provide a very good broadcasting opportunities too? I mean, it would be a very nice spectacle to watch for cricket lovers like us, that there is a bunch of Indian domestic cricketers playing a game at Centurion.
would make for a great broadcasting opportunity, and would also be a good experience for those who are involved in terms of playing those games. But then it increases accountability, it increases logistics, and मेहनत क्यों करनी है
I
जब
mean,
रिवॉर्ड मिल रहा है
yeah,
जब बिना मेहनत
this is the richest board in the world,
that
treating its
see
its fans like crap. At least it can actually work. At least it can create a better system. This is common sense. You can have this tournament this
it
year in South
is
Africa. You can have this tournament next year in Australia, where you're about to tour in 2024. You can have this tournament in 2025 in England.
It is. I'm not denying it. In fact, I just say that I like the principle of the Duleep Trophy. I also like the principle of the Irani Trophy, because what Duleep Trophy is doing is that it's basically getting the best of cricketers from five zones and getting them to play, right? But like
Sorry,
Nikhil
sorry,
mentioned,
not all the best though. There are questionable selections even in Duleep Trophy.
yeah,
So
that is there.
uh,
That is so. That's why I said I like it in principle. Like I like the principle with which it is held. But like Nikhil mentioned about the selection, about having the same pitches and then not having the broadcasting. Now you keep talking about eye test and everything, but see, if I don't think it is possible for all those who are involved in the selection process to be present at all games,
I,
okay, because of the games that happen. So if you're not broadcasting these games as well, then the to say that the eye test is not being passed also sounds a little hollow, because yeah, it's not that, because if selectors are attending, or if those who are involved in the selection process are attending these games, you'll get to know in the news anyway. But you don't get those news also. You are not getting getting to watch these games also. So the question has to be then arrived at it, अगर आपके मेजर गेम्स का भी आई ब्रॉडकास्टिंग नहीं हो रहा, तो आई टेस्ट किस बेसिस पे है एंड वेयर इट इज हैपनिंग, राइट? इट रेजेस अ पर्टिनेंट क्वेश्चन.
Hmm. And actually, talking about this eye test, we touched upon the three format thing in the previous episode. One thing I really feel that it is high time that India have different selection panels for different formats. They have different selection panel for different zones. Uh, people coming out of different zones and then forming a selection committee. But I think in this day and age, you just can't have one selection panel for all three formats, because, like you said, Gurkirat, it's absolutely impossible for certain individuals to just keep a lookout of everything happening unless and until your entire selection committee is made up of Nikhil Popat. It's impossible.
Forget about Nikhil Popat. A board as big as BCCI, they are yet to find a chief selector. How many more people do you need in the system for you to be able to find a good person who wants to take Indian cricket forward and meet the right conditions to ensure that it is done? And who has restricted you to just have 4 or 5 members? Can you not have a committee? Can you not have a
Yeah.
selection, proper panel of 20-30 people who are going out there? We have enough people in this country,
Yeah.
enough players, former players in this country.
Yeah,
If
some
there is
might not
intent,
agree with the money paid, but others might agree.
but you
Other
can
might be
find a
able to
way.
take the job.
I'm sure there can be enough motivation and enough. I mean, if you can send a trophy to space, there can be enough thing that can be done to ensure your domestic system is well taken care of by selectors who are watching the game. And why they are not paid, again, there is one line with the board that you can always attach, which is, sorry for using a meme, ये राज भी उनके साथ ही है. There is nothing that we will ever know that why they are not paid enough, because this is the best job in the world, ideally.
But I think I just want to briefly touch upon this. Of course, I'm not in a position to comment on what is a good amount to be paid. But as per the reports that came out, the amount was in some crores, and for a player like Sehwag, it was nothing. But the point is, it is Sehwag we are talking about, and Sehwag is not the beyond in the end all. There are other cricketers who would be willing to take this for the amount paid.
And
See,
also, before you go, the notion also has to break somewhere that you don't always need the best performing player as your selector.
Yeah.
So-
Kwaji.
no, so there are layers to it. I believe if you're talking about, now when after the T20 World Cup, when the whole selection committee was sacked, and then you appointed Chetan Sharma once again, because one of the reports that came out, and I hate using this because it just sort of triggers me. One of the reports that came out was that people did not want to apply because one was obviously that the pay was not enough, and there was somewhere about the maybe you don't, even if you are getting into that position, you probably don't have that accountability, right? If you eventually want to look for selectors to make them scapegoats, right, then probably it also explains to what level of seriousness you associate with the job in terms of your uh, cricketing structure hierarchy. If you think that the selectors are there for a punching bag, you will also pay them accordingly, and you will also give them that much power only. So what also needs to be defined over here is that what is going to be their accountability and what is going to be their roles, right? Because we have had there was a time where Australia, I think, had two selectors, or maybe three selectors, and the other two selectors were the coach and the captain officially. And then they had captain who was removed as a selector officially because there was conflict of interest, which made sense. And England, I think England after the 2015 World Cup had only two selectors, and they also did not have these criterias that, oh, you have to have retired 5 years before applying, because if you also put these criterias, then you also will not get selectors or people applying for the post who are updated with the game, right? Because you have yourself created this obstacle that this person has to play so and so many games, right? They have to be retired 5 years prior to the date of application, and those criterias of so and so games does not even include T20 games. So you could have played zero T20 games, but still, like, firstly, I don't agree, like Nikhil said, that It's not that the best player who's played the game will turn out to be the best selector. I don't think that those two things are related. But even if you want to put that filter, then treat those three formats equally, right? It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and absolutely. England might not be a very good example because England just 2 years back they had Chris Silverwood as the head coach and the head selector, which in itself is a very. I don't even know
Pakistan
right
also had it
now.
with
Yeah,
Misbah.
it is
Yeah,
just
that's
bizarre
also
that people
bizarre.
agreed to it. This
That's
in
also
itself,
bizarre.
it's in itself it sounds so something which no one should actually. It defies common sense. Why would you do it? Why would you give someone this much power? And B, right now, like for example, what happened with Moeen Ali. I mean, if we go by the conversation, Stokes just pinged him. He said yes, and he was included in the team. So captain basically took the call. And then on the Indian side of things, we have Ravi Shastri claiming on television that he was never part of any selection committee meeting, which in itself again defies common sense. Then if you are having a selection process, first of all, I don't believe what Shastri says because it is impossible in any cricket structure where you don't have the coach and the captain involved in the selection process. But even if it is true, it's just mind-boggling that how can such a thing happen where you're not taking opinions from captain and the coach. So
See, I think firstly, though, you can hardly trust what you hear on air. Let's
yeah,
get that out of the way. You can hardly trust anything because the same person says the same thing one day and says the other thing the other day. Sometimes they forget that they were part of the system too. So that is taken. Just to go to that point about, there are different ways in which teams function. One is where you give complete authority to the captain that this is your team, captain and the coach, you take the call.
hmm,
So if you are going to buy into that kind of logic for your country, for your system, I'm not saying it is justified, but it is understandable why you
yeah,
give the power to that person, because then you are actually willing to take accountability of whatever happens with that person. So,
hmm,
like, say, maybe a wrong example, but if you go with, say, Chennai, you know that the 75-25% calls with MS and Fleming take, they too are the people who are taking the calls. So, at the end of the day, whatever happens, you can associate them, and they do often come out and say that, okay, it was my call. That's what happens. But when you leave it out in the open, that if Ravi Shastri says my input is not taken, you are not telling us anything. You are not
but
telling us who was taking the call. You are not telling us why were you fine with it. Because if you are such a personality that you will not take anything, whatever comes your way, you're not that kind of personality. So why
hmm,
would you not address it? That why were you okay if your inputs were not taken? So you have
true.
to tell also in people that who is taking the calls then.
Absolutely, and then we come back to the point around communication, which is the
Yeah.
biggest problem with Indian cricket. But Gurkeet, I just want to ask you. I mean, any person with some common sense will anyone believe what Shastri is saying that he was never involved in selection committee meeting? Because if you go back to the era, yeah, everyone knows Ganguly was dropped because of coach's opinion. Everyone knows the story around MS Dhoni and how he did not want certain players in the team. If that much power was given to a foreign coach and a new captain, do you think the current system or the system just before Rohit and Rahul Dravid, they would not be having the similar power? It is absolutely falsehood.
You have to be extremely naive to think that that statement could be true. Also,
Yeah,
see, okay, let's just okay, for once agree to what Ravi Shastri said, that he wasn't consulted on selections. Then on what basis was he telling Kuldeep Yadav after Sydney 2018 that you are number one
exactly,
overseas winner
exactly.
after that one? So you
Yeah,
you see, you can't be riding into two opposite boats and then claim that at one point of time that was true and the other point of time this was true. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and see, he's Ravi Shastri said a lot of things.
Yeah, and
You,
the point and the point I bring about Ravi Shastri is to make another point where we say that people are not no willing to come to the selection committee because they feel that they will be made scapegoats. So even right now, it should be an understandable thing that if a certain team was selected, the current captain and coach was on board, and it doesn't lie absolutely on the heads of the chief selector.
that's what I'm saying, which is I said that when the whole selection committee was sacked after the 2022 World Cup,
Yeah.
it was nothing. it was nothing but, giving a pack of hungry wolves something to feed on, and the pack
Absolutely.
of hungry wolves being the Indian fans at large, who were, outraging that now we have not won again. Because, see, right throughout leading up to the World T20, we had mostly Rohit Sharma and Rahul Dravid come out and talk about strategy, right? uh, After the IPL, they said we want to play a certain brand, we want to be aggressive, and they were doing that to some extent. Then they spoke about how they wanted to try out different combinations and prepare people for all positions, which they did by, promoting Pant to open, having Surya Kumar Yadav to open, giving Bishnoi some chances, giving Avesh Khan some chances, and they kept saying that Dinesh Karthik will be their finisher, right? So all the moves that were happening were in line with what they were saying, right? So
Hmm.
then to remove the selectors, it was
Yeah.
like, that's what. And it's similar to what I said about Cheteshwar Pujara too, that his dropping was eminent. It was, wait, like only a loss in a big game or a loss in a series would have done that, and that's what happened. So uh, that, which is why I said initially that we can have these discussions about who should be the selector, or what should be their salaries, etc., etc., but we need to first fix that what is their accountability and what is going to be their role. Do you want these selectors to function like scouts, or do you want to give them the power to select the teams? I believe to have them functioning as scouts, or have them work as those people who give you, okay, so say out of the 15 that play, you have 12 spots, 12 13 spots will always be more or less will be selecting themselves. Now for the remaining two spots, what all options are they going to offer? That could be their role, and then you could leave the captain and coach to decide, okay, for the number 13 spot between A, B, and C, I want to pick A. For the 14th, I want to pick B, and for the 15th, I want to pick C. Right? If you want to give them that role, then it makes sense. But if you want to give them complete accountability, then I also feel you are somewhat underselling the role of the captain and not making that captain and coach comfortable as well in their roles, because they have far greater scrutiny on their job. So make the process clear and make their roles clear, and then try and look for personnel.
Hmm.
Because without making the roles clear, it is not going to make any difference who the personnel is, because the same person is going to come and try and make some sense of the chaos around him or her, right?
Yeah.
And that chaos, some people will be able to steer through it and some will not be able to steer through it, because that that that's what chaos means essentially, and that's how it is.
And ultimately, it comes down to good communication. And at this point of time, I mean,
it's
the
it's
summary of
it's
our
the
discussion is
it's
how
the
to
punch
fix Indian cricket. Just
it's
give
the punchline
everyone.
of the show. It's the punchline of the show.
Yeah, it's all about communication. So basically, how to fix Indian cricket? Give a communication 101 to everyone running the show. I just want to take
This,
one comment, and people who are watching us do comment, and please like the video, spread the word, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. This comment will act as a good segue into our discussion later. But before we take it, I think Gurkiraj, you wanted to make a point.
no, I just wanted to say that, given the time, given the amount of times we have mentioned communication, if someone who doesn't have an idea about cricket and is just listening to the word communication, this they might feel that this is some podcast on relationship advice.
Yeah. Or I mean, yeah, communication is the basic life skill for anything, not just relationships. Yeah. So coming back to the comment, you can play in Sena, but the quality of bowling would remain the same. However, international pacers are different ball game. But Sagar, the point is, such tours will give an improvement opportunity to both batters and bowlers. Like for example, if I agree that international pacers would be different, at least in terms of their physique, which is often India have encountered when they're playing New Zealand and Australia in the two WTC finals, that the opposition pacers were much taller. But on the other hand, the counter argument to this is it'll act as a step by step development, that players won't have to jump from A to C, from where facing Indian bowlers in Indian conditions they are directly jumping to facing international bowlers in international conditions. This can act as a B, where they're sort of the same bowlers that they've played in the domestic circuit. Now they're trying to acclimatize the same in overseas conditions, where they'll get a better idea of how the conditions are different from what they were at home. But coming to a broader point, and I want to hear from Nikhil, because Gurkirat has touched upon this a lot, the A tours. How badly are you waiting for the A tours to resume?
Yeah, we are missing so much that we are wanting you to shift domestic tournaments there. So that
Yeah.
is how badly we are waiting for the A tours to happen because see, like the previous comment just said, it is eventually what you are trying to get at. That
Yeah.
people go to different venues, and sometimes it's not always about the opposition. It's about how much you can grow in your skill sets, that you know that okay, if today I'm playing in Wankhede, this is my natural length, this is my stock length, okay, it will work here. But if you're going to say a Durban, a Centurion, you will realize that okay, if I'm playing here, if I ever come back here, this is not the length to bowl here, it will not work here. So you don't have to wait for your international debut and bowl one spell where you concede 100 runs as a team and then figure out that अरे इधर तो ये लाइन चलेगा ही नहीं, which is happening
Yeah.
even with the national team, that they are not able to adapt to different situations. When you have these 8 overs in place, or you have, the point of playing away is to get acclimatized. See, a lot of times people say that acclimatization doesn't help, you are going to get flat roads. Fair, but then that same thing can be taken care of by these 8 overs, right? If you keep having regular ATOs in different parts of the world, you will, a guy sitting in Bombay right now will know that okay, I have played in South Africa, I have played in England, I have played in Australia. There are three different lengths that I have to bowl, three different paces that may work at different conditions. That awareness keeps the person in better preparedness, that whenever he gets the chance, he will be ready for it. And he doesn't then have to wait for those practice games on flat roads to then tell you that, okay, yeah, I did not get the right conditions to prepare for it well. So those 8 overs, this is what they will help. A Jaydev Unadkar bowling to you in Motera, a Jaydev Unadkar bowling to you in Nottingham are two different propositions. Both will
Hmm.
learn a lot about each other when they are playing in different venues, and that may be happening right now in the circuit, but it is not happening to the extent that it should, that it has players ready, and if the players are ready, they need to be picked.
Yep. I mean, again, pretty crucial points. And I mean, we are what 2 years now since the pandemic has ended. And I mean, again, I just don't understand the state of limbo which the entire structure is stuck in at the moment. We've not we're having difficulty to find chief selectors. We are having difficulty to arrange ATOs. I mean, overall, I think it's. I mean, I'm lost for words, as you guys can see, of
Very,
just to
it could be a
explain what is.
business, it
Yeah.
could be a business video idea as well, that they're yet to sign a team India jersey sponsor.
Yeah.
Even that is pending. There are lot of open-ended questions that
And this, we are not supposed to have this month long break. Indian players do not have never has this month long break. It is only happening because the broadcaster is not finalized yet of who would have sort of telecasted the series with Afghanistan.
so
So
maybe it's the broadcaster who's selecting and not the selectors, which is why you don't have a chief selector.
yeah, maybe.
No,
So
but on that note, I just want to say that
yeah.
uh, people sort of underestimate the role that the home broadcaster plays in terms of how much rest or layoff your star players might get,
Hmm.
right? And if your star players decide to take a break during the IPL, you know your
आप
star
ऐसे
broad, your
आप
your
ऐसी
star
सोनी बातें मत
broadcast.
करो। आप ऐसी सोनी बातें
I
मत
think
करो।
yeah, I think schedule is something we'll leave for the third and final episode of our discussion. Now, I just want to divert this entire discussion into a very different direction. Right now, we've seen an outcry of Sarfaraz's non-selection, but it is not just the red ball tournaments which have suffered such fate. We've often seen IPL performances being overlooked because India want to remain, uh, you know, want to persist with a certain player they feel has the potential to succeed, even though that certain player has underperformed in IPL for ages now. So, keeping that in mind, I don't even want to ask, does it affect? I'm going to ask, how much does India not allowing its players to play in overseas leagues affecting player development?
Yeah, I think
It's
it's
not,
yeah, Baji.
you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think it is very very evident that it you may not be able to quantify it how much, but if you have a guy like Warner playing 10 years of IPL, getting accustomed to those conditions, when he comes here for the World Cup, he doesn't have to think all over again.
Hmm.
Shami touring, we had a comment from Shibam which said Shami's fourth tour, yet he was not able to always find the wicket taking length. He was getting the
Hmm.
good length to look good, but not the
Yeah.
wicket taking length. If you have, and again, if you see, it's all part of the circle that this is why you want A2s. This is why you want your domestic structure to maybe have a series outside so that you are able to get to those conditions. We are talking about the same thing just in different lenses. That if you allow a player to go out in a BBL or a PSL तो कभी नहीं होने वाला LPL भी हो जाए, you are going to tell them that okay, this is the way the teams are functioning. This is the option that I have. Zair Khan credited his uh, county stint for his resurgence. Isn't that
Ishan sir.
enough example? There have been multiple such occasions where teams have gone abroad. Ishan Sharma found his better length after his tour, after his stint in county. There is a reason why people are going
Yeah.
outside of the country so that they can adapt to those conditions, get ready for those conditions. So definitely India are missing out on a lot of opportunities. And see the point that you also made about not rewarding certain set of performers, it's probably because there is a set bubble that these are the players that we will back no matter what happens.
Hmm.
And when you try to overprotect them, that's where you're actually not helping the players grow. And if you
Yeah.
say that, nahi yaar, this is my money making machine, if I let it go, the money will not come. You don't have to always think about money. You have now made enough money. And see, it's also why you see, keep hearing that one question. You have IPL since 2007, 2009. How many trophies have you won? It is the answer to the question that they are not rewarding IPL performance as well.
Yeah.
They are eventually just going back by their own system.
Eye
That
test.
this is when I came into the see. I think it could also be a problem. Something that we can discuss that when the players are coming into the system as a coach or a mentor or a part of selection, I think they always look at it from the lens of this is how it was in my time. This is how it always be. Like I may be digressing, but a comment from Sunil Gavaskar really made me think that he said the field that Stokes had to Khwaja was for TV. I mean, are you going to tell that England captain is going to set a field just because it will look good on the TV? That people are diving to take catches because they look on the TV. See, it's good to pass and have your opinion, but sometimes when you make such calls, it probably tells you that the people are not in touch or they are completely disregarding how the other world is functioning. That नहीं हम तो ऐसे ही करेंगे तुमको करना है तो करो.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
Gurkias.
one thing that, apart from the development bit as well, you are taking sort of an employment opportunity away from the players as well, because not everyone's centrally contracted. A lot of cricketers have had to retire from the IPL to be able to play leagues outside of India, right? Those who are not in the reckoning, those who are not even playing Ranji or not taking up a spot in your domestic cricket and just playing the IPL, allow them to play those leagues, right? This is also not ethically fair, because you are taking away that employment opportunity from them. Like, if that player is now only playing for his IPL team, and the IPL team doesn't mind in investing a player whose best days are gone by, and they want to be still associated, why is the board stopping them, right? So that also is unfair. Because, and apart, Nikhil has already touched the part about how it is stopping the player development, and I'm not going to touch that, but I'm also saying that on other grounds also it's not fair. And we have had a very good nugget from our statsman Anirudh. He says that in tests since 2018, India have fielded only 8 left-handers, which is the least among all teams with 10 plus matches. And Indian lefties average 39.04, which is the best among all teams.
Yeah, don't
So,
let me get started on the right-handedness of India's batting lineup.
so, so that tells a story, right? In terms of how the selections are playing out as well. And yeah, I mean, that you've got to try and understand, you have to try and realize that how cricket is a very conditions oriented game. if you let your cricketers or your upcoming players encounter as many different conditions as possible, it will only help you. You cannot be thinking about, oh, if so and so players plays the BBL, it will, give them more viewership, and it will take away the markiness or the prestigiousness of our tournament away, right?
Mm.
That's very short-sighted approach, because ultimately you still want to develop your players, and you want those trophies, you want that world dominance to be visible when the whole world is watching, right? Cricket is not this, the whole world doesn't is still is not only watching the IPL, they are also
Mm.
watching other tournaments, they are watching the world tournaments. And for your for your betterment as well, you need those trophies, because ultimately if you don't win these trophies, the image that will be associated with you is, oh, you are bullies in terms of, the financial strength, in terms of bilateral games, but when it comes to the big stage, you're not able to do it, so it doesn't
Mm.
help.
Yeah. So I just want to discuss this further a little objectively. Now, all of us would remember that in a very lengthy discussion with Rahul Dravid a few months back, he did touch upon this point that ideally Indian players should be playing in overseas league, but scheduling and workload management does not allow it. Now, I'm just going to cite a few examples: Ravi Vishnoi, Venkatesh Iyer, Arshdeep Singh, Rahul Tripathi. These are the players who are not in India's test scheme of things at the moment. These are players who are not in the ODI World Cup scheme of things at the moment as well. I mean, some might disagree about Arshdeep Singh, but if he's not part of the ODI series now with 100 days to go, effectively not being seen in contention. So when you have a T20 World Cup in West Indies a year from now, doesn't common sense suggest that they should be playing this year's CPL? And how is that going to dilute the prominence of IPL? You know that you have your Dhonis and Kohlis to sell your IPL. Why do you? I mean, how does a Ravi Vishnoi or an Arshdeep Singh or a Rahul Tripathi going to affect IPL's markiness? It isn't it just bizarre that we as fans want Indian cricket to succeed, but the people who are running it, just by defying common sense, are making a complete mockery of it.
See, I think they are purely only thing. See, if you see tell that logic to them, they will say, "Are to they will skip our domestic system to play for a foreign league." This is what your answer will. This is what the, and that's where the system has to be in place, that you have a defined set of order, that okay, this is the pathway to get to the team. Okay, prior first step is your Ranji Trophy, your basic normal, your basic tournament. Then when you realize that okay, let's take a very good example of a Mayank Agarwal. You know what is the issue with Mayank Agarwal? He scored runs in Ranji Trophy. He's a top run getter there. Now try and have a level upgrade here. If there is no A tour, okay, there is an A tour, he goes there. That A tour has to be in England or in South Africa, where his issues may be found out or he'll find a solution to them. In that way, what you're doing is you're also firstly giving him enough chance to first get runs. You go away, you sign up, and you grow your skills. And then if you want to go from there, you know that he can get into the test team on the basis of that. The same thing can be applied for all three formats of the game.
and
You
and this
have
is
enough.
where and this is where the discussion goes back to what we discussed the last time around. I mean, let's take, I mean, I can widen the net. Let's take example of Rinku Singh, Jitesh Sharma.
Yeah.
Rinku Singh has been part of the domestic, he's playing Ranji Trophy for ages now, but he is as close to being selected in the test team as any of us here at the moment. So why do you want to go, why would you want him to go back and play Ranji Trophy when actually he can go and play CPL and be ready for the World Cup next year if he's needed? I
Also,
mean,
I'd say one more thing, right? Like how Nikhil mentioned about Mayank Agarwal. See, you get to know some players, regardless of what their form is or at what stage of their careers are, they'll be able to dominate a certain level of cricketing competition. Right now, Mayank Agarwal, even if he doesn't work on his technique more, he'll still be able to amass runs at the Ranji Trophy level. So you need to understand that him scoring runs at Ranji Trophy level does nothing. It only makes headlines. It doesn't improve his game. It doesn't make him a better player to go abroad and succeed. And it doesn't help the Indian team either to look at him as a backup opener option when they are traveling abroad. So even if for his development, he has to play one full season of county cricket in Division 1 and has to skip the Ranji Trophy for Karnataka, for his development and for the betterment of Indian cricket, or for the betterment of the team to find a backup opener, that should happen, because you already know that him scoring runs at Ranji Trophy is not helping him become a better player. So you also need to have these filters and understand to to look at. And this is something that kept happening with Yuvraj Singh a lot, from 2014 to 2017, 2018. He was getting dropped. He would score runs at Ranji, come back, struggle at the international level, get 10 games, get dropped, go back, score runs, come back, then play two series, get dropped. And this kept happening. This kept happening with him post 2013 or 2014. So you have to understand that someone like Yuvraj Singh will always be good for the level of cricket that is happening at the Ranji level, or the Vijay Hazare level, because he has that quality, right? But if he has to consistently play for India, you have to look at some other level to then try and see if he can then graduate, or get over his weaknesses. So that is something which has to come from that. And this, I think, should really be a part of the scope of selectors, that selectors who are following the domestic game, they should take this call. Okay, this player we don't think is going to gain anything from playing Ranji Trophy. Maybe it's time we send him to play a different competition, and let's then see how he's progressing at that competition. That, I think, should actually fall into the ambit of the selectors.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. I just want to pause here and take a couple of comments. One is,
I mean, sorry, you can just hear the sigh after every answer. That, I mean, ye itna obvious hai. It is just so straightforward, yet there is nothing being done about it.
I don't know. I mean, what more to add there? So Pranav Anand is asking us. Uh, so I think his question starts a little later. I remember India casting the wider net before 2021 World T20. I think he means 2022 World T20, and tried a lot of players. And then for next World T20, they said that they'll back selected players. Are they overdoing both?
Sir, if I'm getting it right, they cast the net wide and then went back to Mohammad Shami.
Yeah.
Their question, your question is answered there itself. That they tried 100 things, but under pressure, they go back to the same philosophy that let's go by something that has worked for us. He may not have played any game leading up to that. And that's what is the problem. Lack of clarity or lack of trust in their own plans. That okay. But then you have to also question, why did you make Surya Kumar open? Why did you make Deepak Gudda open if you're going to bat him at 6? See,
In
it's
Perth,
okay. It's okay to try people in different roles, but there has to be a necessity for it. How many times in this life is Deepak Gutta going to open the batting for India? How much sense does it make for him to open if your plan is to go use him at 6? If your plan is to play him in the top 3, great. Okay, you are getting him ready. Why would you open with Surya Kumar Yadav? What did you gain out of it?
And at that point of time, Gurkirat and I were discussing that these guys are freaking genius. They're trying to create chaos ताकि किसी bizarre situation में if they are stuck, they have players ready to face that situation, and at the end of the day, none of it mattered. This next yeah, Gurkirat, you want to say something?
yeah, it was not just Deepak Gudda at 6. It was at 6 in Perth versus South Africa. The worst kind of fit which could have been possible. And that was one game where I felt that India could have actually played Pant ahead of Hooda because of him being a better batter and India not using his bowling at all. But जो हो गया अब सो हो गया क्या कर सकते
जो बीत गई सो बात गई. This entire discussion is for what can be done in the future, and I mean at this point of time, even if India can pick 6 players, that guys you're given an NOC to go and play CPL. I mean I'd sare khoon maaf. All the bad things that have happened in the past few years would be just forgiven from my end. I just want to take one more comment. Mehul Sangnani, selections of lefty and their stats, it could also mean India selects only the best batters regardless of their handedness. So Mehul, this topic we've touched upon quite a while in previous lives as well. This is my point regarding team building. I mean, it's even if you, I mean, the point is You cannot always just pick best batters by giving up the overall combination balance, because that is most important. If your best five bowlers are five spinners, it doesn't mean that if you're playing in Australia or playing in England, you just go and pick five bowlers because they are five spinners because they are your best bowlers. Ultimately, when you are developing a team for 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line, 2 years down the line, it's your prerogative as a team management to ensure that there is a proper balance. And every good team in the world always had a very good balance between righties and lefties. It is India right now, which for the past many years is just stuck with a plethora of righties in the top six, and have never really felt the need, have never really come out in the open and said that this is the very big reason that at certain stages opposition are no just you're just making it very easy for the opposition to plan against you. Yep. Gurkirat, Nikhil, any other comment that you guys feel that we should be taking?
Yeah, I think there is one from Our Earth is Best, which I want to really take. Why England can't play baseball approach like England? Your question, I suppose it's why India can't play
Yeah.
baseball approach like England. Let England play baseball enough first, and then we can get to why India can't play baseball. Then we will know, because at this point in time, if baseball means that I am losing a test and I still feel that I won the test, then I don't think it makes sense. So that delusion has to go away, and it has to first lead to common sense. That, see, I think there is a very good example also, that how the narrative functions. That if you heard the commentary on air during the Ashes, you felt like England were always winning. Australia won by
by
mistake.
by an innings.
By innings, मतलब 2 दिन में मैच खत्म हो गया था. England had won already. But that is how. And again, when Robinson tells that we don't know why Australia did not go toe to toe with us, they don't have to. And that's also an answer, that everybody doesn't have to play the same way. England, I'll be very honest, England are also saying we'll play baseball because we can't defend. This is how our set of batters are. We cannot always defend. But if you see, what did Stokes do in the second innings? He was happy to take time. So you can talk everything about baseball, but it is not going to be a clear strategy for any side to function, because eventually the only thing that works in cricket is playing the situation. And then you can call it baseball, Dravid ball, the ball, jo bolna hai bol. If you play the situation, most times you will come good.
In fact,
How prepared are you for that situation will define your success.
Stokes's best innings while being captain, and since the time
Yeah,
McCullum has
second
become
test.
coach, has come when he was actually batting normally, which he used to
Yeah.
do before he became the captain. And it was in the second test versus South Africa, where him and Folks both scored a century.
Hmm.
So you can talk all you want, but sometimes you also know that you're just saying some things for the sake of mind games, and you have to do something entirely different.
Yeah.
And about not going to toe to toe, if Australia have more depth and more quality, they probably don't need to do everything what England are doing, because they know that they have enough quality to sustain those bursts of baseball to still you know s- to still be able to win the game afterwards. And that's what happened in the first test match. And one of the downsides of that baseball is that English bowlers were complaining about the pitches now, and this is while they were playing in England. So yeah, I mean, I have not been someone who's given the verdict yet. I just believe it's a very, in very simple layman terms, baseball as a strategy is about maximizing your resources in in a discipline where you feel you can really come out on top versus the opposition, and then minimizing your losses in a situation where you feel that you cannot outbowl or outbat the opposition. So I feel it's very simple. Everything else around is just trying to create a narrative about saving test cricket, or being a masiha of test cricket, or giving test cricket a new lease of life, and what all not. You could just put, you could choose your own words, but that's what I feel is happening right now.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that's actually a great comment from Sagar to address that. Uh, it's not that we are disrespecting Ruturaj here or anybody who's selected above the domestic performance. People system are always allowed, and it's their uh, choice of way to work, that they can go by the eye test, they can go by what they feel is great for the game. But what you have to also take care of is you are not disrespecting your core system that is getting you enough players, or you tell people openly that Ranji Trophy we are not going to consider it. If that is said openly, then nobody is going to expect. But if you are going to see the problem, if you see Rohit was made an opener from a middle order batter. Rohit was made an opener, ODI opener from a middle order batter. Are you going to the domestic circuit for an option? No. What you're doing is you're looking for answers within your selected pool of players. Nobody's saying it is right or wrong. It is your preference and you are making it very evident. So just come out and say in the open that this is what matters to us. And that will end all expectations, because then it's fine. So it's not a problem. Ruturaj can go on and become a 10,000 test player for India. It will not make the process right or wrong. It's about what you're going to tell the world, that we have a system, but we don't think it's good enough. So we are eventually going by the selection panel. Yes, we are going by our selection punt that okay, ye banda chal jaye. But you have to find a way to make it open that this is what it is.
Yep, and just to touch upon the last comment that we were addressing on why India can't play baseball. I mean, this is something that we discussed in the last episode as well. That India did try to play sort of baseball in the WTC final, but they did that with the wrong people. They wanted Pujara to play baseball, uppercut on the last day when or day 4 when it was absolutely not needed. So I mean, on face value, you can just play aggressive cricket, and we've seen at times. I mean, Pujara is one player. Both Rohit, Virat, Shastri, everyone has been visibly upset with at times. But then you want him to play a brand of cricket which he is not built for, and this is the
And
grave error that you're doing.
and there is no need for it. You can have 6 other batters who can do that job. You have one guy in the team who can play the ball. You can play the new ball out, and that's the problem, right? If you can't do it, you will always expect the other guys to do it better than you. It doesn't work that way. And I think Sagar also has a follow-up question, that why did nobody question Gills? People had questioned Gills.
We did. I mean, there were a lot of watch-alongs where we did question that what is Gill doing in a T20 team, and this was before the IPL happened this time around. And after that, I think no one will question Gill, and he should be given enough credit to it because he proved that he has that gear where he can.
And again,
play the game.
it's also a preference of the first episode. All format players. How many people do you want to play every format and all? And see, it's also on us to expect them to always do well in every format of the game. It is not
Yeah.
going to happen. So you can question something. It has to be taken in context of the situation, and then where the player is at that point of life. At this point of time, if you go and ask Sarfaraz, you will get to know more about what is the system doing and what it is not doing.
Yep, I think with that, we've discussed everything we had to discuss in this particular segment. We'll be back next week with the final chapter where we will talk about India's schedules and how is it affecting the overall performance of the team. So do tune in. Those of who did stay with us throughout the course of this episode, thanks for watching. Please do like the video if you've not done so already. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Goodbye, Gurkirat, Nikhil.
See you. Let's try again.